Hi guys, welcome to Cinema Express, and today I'm chatting with the cast of Bombay Begums, Alankrita Shrivastava show about five driven, ambitious women in Mumbai. Hello everyone, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Hi.
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 Hi, hello. I'll start with Pooja ma'am. Firstly, it's quite a compelling, stunning comeback from you, and having seen the show, it's very hard to imagine, and envision anyone else, as Rani. I wanted to know, what was your clincher for the character, and was the character one of the prime reasons for you to, come and do the show?
Well, I think that I would be a fool to have said no to this project in every way. Starting with what it was called, I found the title
Right,
compelling. I found the world that it was set in completely removed from any any other body of work of mine that I'd ever been part of, whether
right,
through an actor or as a filmmaker. It was a fascinating world. And I think that it was a author-backed role, like all of us are,
hmm,
but I mean
hmm, hmm, hmm,
it was a great platform. It was with a fantastic director.
right,
And when life is banging on
right,
your door and you decide not to open it, then you're a damn fool. So I just flung the door
right,
open and I said yes with all of my being. And I told Alankrita on day one that now that I'm on, I surrender to you completely. And I'm only as good as and or bad as you allow me to be. And I think it's the greatest decision I've taken in a long, long time, because it's rare that you
right,
can look at a body of work and feel a certain degree of contentment and pride about it. And I think that Bombay
hmm,
Begums for
hmm,
me is one such project. And I just turned 49, so it's
right,
the greatest gift that I could have got to kind of make my
right.
49th year a little more, comfortable in that sense.
Right. Shahana, as you watch the show, Fatima's journey, I think is, it's one of the most emotionally resonant ones in the show. And especially, how it starts on a very difficult note for her and then, how it unfolds, as well as her personal and professional relationship. How much could you, relate and connect to the character? And I think a lot of women, working women in India, easily resonate with her. What did you like most about your track?
Well, I think one thing is that what we see maybe a little extra in Fatima's case because of the severity of the things
Mm,
that she's dealing with, but
mm,
is there
mm,
for all of them, is that, we all come to work, we all interact with the whole world, and nobody else knows what you're really going through. You have to wear a mask and, get on with life. And that's something I think which is a good reminder, especially today in the world we live in, that let's show a little bit more empathy and compassion to people because we don't know where they're coming from and what's going on with them. So I think that's something that at a personal level I've always felt that we all are tend to be too self-centered in the way we look at life and don't take into account what other people are going through. And having played a character who was going through something very severe and kind of emotionally a huge emotional psychological turmoil, but coming to work and dealing with those issues and those crises in a certain way, um, is the balance of
right,
life, is the way one
right,
leads life. The other thing for me
right.
was the fact that I think she's very different from who I am. She's
Mm,
or
mm,
at least in the phase that we see Fatima, there are references to the
right.
fact that maybe when she was younger, she was a different being.
Right.
But she's clearly become very hard on the exterior and perhaps felt the need to become like that over a period of time. And so I didn't relate to her in terms of her personality.
Hmm,
But I think the
hmm,
thing that I did relate to her with is the fact that she's at a crossroads in her life, and the crossroads is about actually something internal. It's about
right,
asking herself or realizing that the choices that she has made all this while, where are they really coming from? Are they her own choices? They're coming out in the guise of being her own choices, but are they really her own choices? Whether it is the decision to have a baby, is it because she wants to have a baby? Is it because she really wants to
right,
be a mother? Or is it because that's what's expected and everybody says that's the greatest joy of life? When you're
right,
taking on a position in a job or saying no to it, where is that coming from? What is a marriage? All these things are things that she's going
right,
through, and I think a lot of people go through that in a certain phase in their life. So I think I related
right,
to that overall 30s phase
mm,
of life, or the
right,
mid late 30s
right,
phase of life of a
right,
person in the world we live in
mm,
today. So that's kind of the things that
sure,
drew me to her or connected me to her.
right. Plavita, this show provides a cross section of different women at different stages and different in their careers. Anyone who's come to Bombay and try to make a life here would relate to at least that recurring image of you with 4 5 suitcases, moving houses and changing houses. And I personally am in the middle of shifting houses, and just to watch you, struggle, and it's something that's eternal, and it doesn't end in your first year. It's there throughout. How much did you enjoy playing your character, and especially someone at that stage in her life?
So honestly, I really enjoyed playing Aisha, and I really, especially with the suitcases and everything, it was just
Right.
overall it was obviously very challenging character to play for me because very different from who I am, extremely different. But yes, this looking for homes for single women,
Right.
it is difficult.
Right.
I've been through that, so I know how it feels, and
Right.
I know how she feels, and so I think it's I just like how we are showing her character as like Shahana had put it across that day, that how Aisha is a survivor but she doesn't know it. So she is
Right.
like, we know as an audience that she's a survivor, but Aisha doesn't know it. She is just dealing with every little problem. It's just like one step at a time. So life is
Right.
throwing, like she's dealing with struggles in her personal life, in her professional life, with her colleagues, but she is just trying to fight it one step at a time. So she's a fighter, she's a survivor, and she's like, I will go wherever I need to. I will survive, even if I have to live out of these suitcases, even if I have to drag them from one house to the other to the other. So yeah, I mean, I really
Right. Right.
enjoyed that, and also I really enjoyed. When I read it, also I really like the transformation that she goes through. Also, I mean, a lot of times we see somebody. I mean, we as human beings, we judge people, and a lot of times we see somebody, and then we just imagine or we just assume that they're gonna be a certain kind of person. So I think with Aisha, with Lily, and all the characters, like even Rani has this face that we see. But like Shahana
Yeah.
also said, it's just that so easy to judge somebody, or especially somebody like Aisha, I feel. But then we don't even realize what all they're going through and what all Aisha goes throughout. But yeah, I really like that she goes through this whole transformation and she really stands up for
Right.
herself. And yeah.
Right. Adya, I must ask you over here. When the trailer dropped, you get a different impression of, how Shia and Rani's relationship, is or might pan out. Yet it becomes, one of the most poignant tracks in the show, and how they bond and come together and overcome the differences. How much was this fun for you, and also narrating the show? And although she's largely talking, addressing her mother and talking to her life, but it resonates with all the five stories. So both of these things, yeah.
Okay, so Shy is
Uh,
this teenager who many kids can relate
right.
with because they've gone through that phase. And obviously, she's trying to find out the bond with her stepmom, Rani. And I actually like playing with this character because she was different from what you usually visualize how teenagers are and how.
Right.
So she is in this own world of hers, and she observes everything. That's what I really like about her. She observes everything, and she's curious about things happening around her, and she jots them down in this book. She's a graphic artist.
I know that. Yeah.
And when it comes to the narrating part, I felt really good because it is her meanings as a narrator or a commentator that gives gives meaning to the series.
Right. Right.
Yeah, and
Right.
that's what Shy is all about. She's just figuring out her life because she's at that stage where she wants to know, she's at that stage where she wants to know more about life and what she can do with it, how basically what she is. She's trying to
Right.
figure that out.
Right. Amrita ma'am, I must begin by complimenting. You just stun us with your versatility over and over again. Last time I caught you as a really raw agent, and in Africa, stringing along, a gangster, and now we see you, again in the thick of Bombay, struggling and trying to make her life work as Lily. Where does this come from? How easily, you make it look very easy. The way you
Yeah.
blend into characters and into their worlds. Is it something that comes from practice? Is it something that comes from life itself? Just observing people, knowing them.
Well, thank you, first of all.
Right.
Yeah, life has been kind that I have not been slotted in a particular kind of role that,
Right.
now
Right.
give her this particular kind of role. So life has been kind. And again, Alankrita also trusted me with this because This was completely different space, which I was
Right.
never, I have never done something like this. So, but yeah, particularly for this role, I would say life also offered, because Alankrita made me meet actual a dancer, and her name is
Right.
Reshma Appa, and I met her, and she that one day, actually there is, जैसे आयशा मेरे घर में आती है, I went to Reshma Appa's house,
Yeah, yeah.
and
Yeah.
Reshma Appa
Okay.
was
Okay.
so kind to me. She opened her life to me. In that one day, the way she welcomed me, the way she gave herself to me, frankly, openly. And then that gave me a lot about Lily. And then she danced for me, Reshma Appa.
Right.
And Reshma Appa is now, she's quite aged, like she's not in her prime. But still the way she changed when she started dancing. And then when she was mother, she was someone else. So, sometimes when we portray such roles, prostitute roles or bar dancer roles, sometimes, I say, there is a tendency to, we have an image of such roles. कि ये ऐसे किए जाते हैं, they're always like, and like that. But
Yeah.
I realized when I saw, they are also, of course, they are. So Reshma Appa was, when she was mother, there was no trace that यही अभी डांस कर रही थी मेरे सामने. And now she was saying, hey, खा ठीक से खा, ये खा नहीं तो एक, मतलब, she was completely a mother. And her, that dancing and, her, all these moves, there was no trace of that there. So I tried to, portray that, कि motherhood उसका धर्मा है. तो इसलिए फर्स्ट सीन में हम जो देखते हैं कि उसको जो प्रोस्टिट्यूशन के लिए करना पड़ता है वो कर रही है, एंड देन उसमें भी जैसे शी इज डूइंग इट एवरी डे, सो इट्स काइंड ऑफ अ बिजनेस फॉर हर. बट व्हेन इट कम्स टू हर सन, शी इज completely a mother, and like any other mother, she tries, she wants her son to love her, she wants her son to accept her. And I my heart went out the way her character is written, because she's trying to kiss him, but of course he also is pushing her away, because she doesn't fit into this traditionally good mother, whatever slot you say, that image. So the vulnerability she's facing because of that her whole life she's struggling for that son, but he's also somewhere at first ashamed of her, but then he shows her that, you go for factory, don't go somewhere where you can't own your life. So I think it was a wonderful journey, and along with Alankrita, Bonila, and all my lovely Begums, and of course my son. I think he was also, isn't he?
Yeah, he is one.
He was an amazing actor to work with, because he was the main man in my life, my son. Because for others it was, even my lover was secondary. For me, he was my man, my son. So I think that gave us,
Right. Thank you. To all of Alankrita has been steadily building, her style of, these wonderful, multi-track narratives, that she does with Lipstick and Dolly Kitty. Here, what I found interesting was that, other than that, just the 5 tracks, here the life of the performance are not just interlinked, but they're sort of has a lot of friction off each other. Initially, the heroine in one track, becomes the villain in the other, and and I like that approach of she took of, bringing this character not just together, but actually play them off each other, and what that reveals about who they are and how complex they are. To all of you, what just your thoughts on Alankrita's style of storytelling and what she's achieved with Bombay Begums.
Well, Plabita has worked with her before in the iconic Lipstick, so I think you should begin.
I just love the way she writes and she thinks of these stories, because in Lipstick, it was a little different because our lives were not exactly interlinked with each other.
Right.
But after Lipstick, obviously I was very excited to read her next script after I gave an audition and she liked it, and then I was on and I was very excited. And when I read it, I was blown, honestly. I was thinking, my first thought was, how can she write such characters? How can she think of these characters? Like everybody, Rani, Fatima, Shai, Lily, Aisha, because they're so raw. We don't see anything like that on screen. They're so raw, they're imperfect, they're vulnerable, and as in life we all have to do, they have these masks on, like most of them, except Lily. Most of them, they have these masks on because I think we all kind of, we don't need to, but we always made to feel that we need to have these masks on. So I really like how she writes so many characters, but somehow when you're watching it, like after watching the show, I realized that you will never be able to pick one character that you resonated with, because there will be little nuances of each and every character that you will resonate with, for sure. And I'm not even just talking about the Begums, even the men in the show, everybody, because everybody is human in the show, and everybody is real, human, raw, and the way the relationship dynamics change from the way it starts and where it goes, which is also very real in life. We're not always, if we're not like either I'm nice to her or I'm bad to her. So things,
exactly.
and it's not like, okay, one thing happens and suddenly I'm a different person. Not even that.
Correct.
So these whole changes that gradually happen and how things can sometimes go wrong. So I really enjoy her style of writing. So and obviously we really enjoyed shooting also with her and with Bornilla, and I think they've done a great job.
I think what is important to state here is I think that when you look at the show in totality, you realize how clear she was about why she's cast each of us. I often wondered, why would they want me to play Rani beyond the obvious? That because I haven't been around for a long time, so it automatically did become fresh casting because I haven't been in anything for 21 years. And I do come with a certain degree of baggage of fame or infamy or lack of it, for whatever it's worth, because one has seen the pitfalls and the flight. But Rani especially, apparently she's lived for a very long time, this character who she wanted to set in this world. And when I watch it, I realize why she cast me, how she's used me, why she cast Shana, why she cast Plabita, why she cast Adhya, why she cast my darling Amruta. And the men, especially, who I think are far more human than all of us women in many ways, to be fair to them. So I think that's 90% of your battle won. When you know why you're casting somebody, and you cast them correctly, and then you use them for themselves and see in them attributes that even they themselves don't see in themselves. Like, I think the only instruction which she gave me at one point was, don't over-project Rani. And that really helped. And if people are talking about a degree of restraint in my performance, that came from that tone. Because she's a director also who knows why she's cast you and then does not interfere with how you perform it and will not be acting out things for you. She kind of lets you be. And when she's got it, it's, okay, got it, moving on.
Moving on.
Bonina's doing a kind of a jump behind the camera and okay, moving on means that, okay, you haven't blown it in that sense. So I think full marks to her for being able to see in us something that possibly we did not see in ourselves, and being able to cast us very distinctly different women and throwing us together, and how we utilize each other and how we manipulate each other. And, that is actually what is the crux of it. So I think that she knew why she wanted us and she put us together. And I repeat that I think the trust exercise that she made us go through, where we were all in a room a week before we started shooting and we really bared our souls to each other, and I think that is very rare because we're only projecting our best sides to each other. In this day and age, women especially, where you're really covering up all of the real flaws. So I think that once we were emotionally naked with each other before we went on set, then we had nowhere to hide. So
we were also relieved.
Yeah, that really helped in many ways, because you felt, okay, now that's it. Now I have shown it all to each other, and then there's nowhere to go now from here. So thank you, Alankrita, again for the best birthday gift that I could have received in my 49th year, and it's an honor to have been cast with these stunningly amazing, talented women and to play Rani. I couldn't have asked for more.
There's a scene that stuck with me. Your character Rani is, at this leadership summit, and a journalist, rather unthinkingly asked that, how can being a mother, you juggle such a high-profile career, and your character sort of sees the mic and says that I'd like to take that, and she answers, and very painstakingly, very nicely she details, how she manages to, have two stepkids, and how she manages to, balance a life, which sort of gives you a glimpse of, how much of life of for working women, how difficult it is, and how much they embrace it themselves, with struggling with home, struggling with work, and we often in telling a stories which sort of often emphasize one over the other. To all of you, I think it resonates into Fatima's arc as well. To all of you, just this way of putting a spotlight, on all aspects of an ambitious woman's life, and not just the careeristic drive.
Ironically, Rani is somebody who has this defense mechanism, and she's got this carefully cultivated veneer and mask, starting with the amount of makeup she piles on her face, to how perfectly draped her sari is, to every hair being in place. And I must thank Shahana for adjusting my hair very often during takes. But I think that strangely, the two times when she really lets her guard down is to an absolute stranger who's a journalist who asks a question and says that how do you manage it, instead of glossing that part over. She actually says that, I try, and on some days I succeed, and on most days I fail. And I think that's probably a time where Rani is most real. And in the end, of course, where she comes out and she kind of, in front of the world, kind of talks about what she's gone through and how she has also been a victim of, sexual harassment and abuse. And strangely, she's so close to everybody else. Even when, Shahana's character, Fatima, offers to help with what she's obviously going through is a hot flush of menopause, she's in complete denial. And she's like, I'm not going through menopause. So when that female kinship is offered to her, she decides to slap the hand away. But yet, when there's a mic put in her hand in front of the whole world, she decides to kind of air her truth. So I think that if there's something I could really relate to about Rani, is those two scenes, because I've always led my life like that. I believe that I've always aired my my problems. I've never kind of edited my thoughts, and I paid the price for it in my 30-year-long career. But I've been true to myself. So I think those are the two scenes that came to me easily, because to be able to say, I don't know the answers. And I'm extremely flawed, and sometimes I fail and sometimes I succeed. But I try. I try to be as brave as I can. I fall very often. So it's strange, but that's where she kind of comes forth the most.
Right. Amrita, I'll end with this. There's a small detail, where I think your character goes to meet Rani towards the end, and they're negotiating, and she says that I need to go away, and you need to fund this, and she's in the vulnerable state there. She really needs it, and then she's made an offer. She said that this will be the end of our deal, and your character first she goes like and then she realizes that matlab, and then she so goes like matlab, if the payment is good, and it shows that what how much of a hustler she is, and even in that difficult state, she remembers that no, I must stick my ground. You could just talk about that little detail and working that in. I thought that was funny and also revealing.
Lily just pushes all my buttons constantly in the show.
Yeah, because when I read that scene also, I loved it because see, Alankrita knows this character so deeply. That's what I realized.
Right.
After all this has happened now, this is towards the end, where I have shared certain bonds with, definitely with Rani, she has done certain things with me, but still I'm like, oh, let's see. I'm not like, okay, whatever you say, Rani madam, whatever.
Exactly.
Because she can't afford it, you see. And it's her second nature to think about her safety monetarily also, because the kind of economic condition she comes from. So whenever it comes to money, I've seen people who are very nice otherwise. Hi, hello. But whenever, if you start talking money to me, I'm like, yeah, okay, yeah. What were you saying? So Lily, yeah, she, because it depends on आपकी monetary condition भी क्या है, and what is your relationship with money, frankly. कुछ rich लोग भी मैंने ऐसे देखे, frankly. It's not about if you're rich or poor, but then Lily, इतना उसने वो झेला है पैसा ना होना, and the kind of conditions she's living in, and the son, and then son wants his dreams to fulfill. So she knows that I have to earn money if I have to be good in his mind. If I have to get appreciation from my son, I have to earn money. And then again, of course, so her whole life is around him. So there also, it's her second nature, you see. That even if, for me, yes, hi, hello, Rani madam, but money, पैसा चाहिए. So you know, so Rani madam, हाँ प्यार वार बहुत है, हग भी करूँगी, लेकिन पैसा फेंक. नहीं, तूने 80 लाख बोला था ना, तो तब मैं नहीं बोलूँगी कि नहीं, we are friends, you know. Forget about money. She will never do that to anyone, because I think life has been that hard to her. It's not that she's a greedy person or something like that, but life has been really hard to her, and she has learned a very hard way. So she knows कि love उतना ही करेगा जितना afford करे भाई, बाकी पैसा बोलेगा. Love जितना afford करेगा, बाकी सब पैसा ही afford करता है, and she has learned it in a very hard way. So that is why she's like, हाँ, अगर money अच्छा होगा तो.
But you know, I'm sorry to butt in. I think one scene that really resonated with me was a scene between Plabita and Amrita, where you're goading her to go out there and make that complaint officially about the experience she has.
Yeah.
And she is, you know, I mean, Aisha's character is reluctant. And she says something that is so true and is something that we should all follow in our life. Where she says that, you know, I don't have the choice. I don't have the option of complaining. I have to endure what happens to me. I mean, I'm thinking in my words and my understanding of the scene. But our lives are so different. You have the option of going out there and making a wrong, making it right. I don't have that option. Our lives are so diversely different. And I think that's a learning to all of us women. When we sit in a position of privilege and we choose to not speak up, and we expect the world to change. And there are countless women who don't even have the capacity to be able to air the horrors that they face on a daily basis. Nobody will listen. And they have to endure because of the women who have the option, and the silence that they choose is what makes victims of other women and kind of somewhere ensures that they remain subjugated for life. So I think that's a very telling scene for me, because one is a life of privilege and the other is a life where she's had to, like for us, ambition, a position is an aspiration. For Lily, survival is the only way. It's a livelihood is she won't be able to live otherwise.
Very well said. And Pooja, thank you for reminding of this, because Lily also वो slot करती है लोगों को because of her survival instinct. She has slotted Rani in a certain way and slotted Ayesha in a certain way. Her instinct tells her that Ayesha needs to be protected, and her instinct tells her that Rani is going to use me and I'm going to use her. And that is what happens in that scene which you are talking about. Rani tells me, okay, I'll give you money, but then you have to keep quiet. So there is a deal, constant deal going on. So there is a slotting. As far as Lily is concerned, she's very good at recognizing what kind of a person this is and how should I slot this person. So Rani, deal. This girl, I have to protect her. So the first scene, if you remember, Ayesha is late and she starts saying, sorry, traffic jam tha. So I start saying that traffic jam tha. So my first instinct was, I have to protect this girl. I don't know why, but this is Lily's instinct to recognize the person and slot the person for her. So I will use her always.
I just adore being used by you.
But I love you. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much, and all the best for the show. Great talking to you. Thank you.
Thank you, and good luck with your house
so
hunting.
much.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much.